The massive fight would be Ilia versus Islam too.
Of course.
Yeah.
But Salim is obsessed with that fight.
Oh, really?
He's obsessed with it. And I tell him, I'm like, but they both got to win more fights in their division first, right? That's kind of how you do it, right? When it's like they both run through their division, and then it's like you're in the position where it's like, I got to make this. That's what happened with Volk Islam, right?
Well, the other thing is, too, is that Islam moves up, and obviously if Islam won the title, you immediately have a super fight with him and Ilia. So
could that be,
I don't
Islam
know.
Gets one victory, could that potentially happen?
You have to see. It's one thing to sit around. This is what the media always tries to do. Sit around and talk about these fights before they happen, or, hypothetically speaking. I don't like hypothetical. These are options that we have if things play out that way, but you never know what's going to happen.
After the chaos and electricity of UFC 319, the lightweight division stands on the edge of a storm, a division buzzing with tension and unanswered questions. The octagon may have been cleared, but the echoes of battle still linger, leaving fans wondering what comes next. Ilia Topuria, a champion many expected to fight without hesitation, seems caught in hesitation when it comes to facing the #1 contender, Arman Tsarukyan. The belt rests on Topuria's shoulder, but doubt has begun to creep into the conversation, with whispers questioning whether he is ready to stand against a man who has fought tooth and nail for his chance. In the middle of this uncertainty, one voice has risen louder than the rest: Charles Oliveira. The former champion has been here before, has walked through the fire of title contention, and he makes no attempt to hide his opinion. To Oliveira, there is no debate, no alternative, no second option. Arman Tsarukyan has earned his shot, and any delay is nothing short of injustice. Ranked #1, previously scheduled for a title fight that was stolen from him by the cruel hand of injury, Arman represents the undeniable. Oliveira's words hit harder because they come from a man who knows what it means to be overlooked, to climb, to fall, and to rise again. His message is clear: deny Tsarukyan now, and you deny the very spirit of meritocracy that the UFC is supposed to stand for. The fans echo his demand, chanting for clarity, begging for the showdown that will determine the true king of the lightweight throne. If the UFC listens, the answer is obvious. Tsarukyan versus Topuria is not just a fight, it is the fight.
Твой следующий бой после Маддалены пройдет в 77? Не могу сказать точно. Есть Топурия какая-то, интрига. Мне самому тоже интересен этот бой. Может получится сделать какой-то супербой. Или, как я сказал, посмотрим по весу.
While the debate rages, Tsarukyan himself is far from silent. The warrior from Armenia has his eyes fixed on the months ahead, determined to step back into the cage with purpose. October or November, Abu Dhabi or Qatar, these are not just potential dates or places, they are markers of destiny. Tsarukyan has already spoken with Dana White, already drawn the outlines of his next battlefield, and though names like Justin Gaethje, Dan Hooker, and even Paddy Pimblett swirl around him, Arman has drawn a red circle around one name in particular. Paddy, the baddie, Pimblett. To Arman, this isn't just a matchup, it is a chance to silence the noise, to cut through the hype that has followed Pimblett like a shadow. Paddy has charisma, energy, and legions of fans, but Arman believes he has something far more important: skill, composure, and a will forged in the fire of elite competition. He does not see Paddy as a star, he sees him as a stepping stone, a test that will only prove what he already knows: he belongs at the very top. And so, he calls him out with fire in his voice, daring the UFC to make the fight, daring Pimblett to accept. The message is simple and brutal: give me Paddy, and I will break the illusion once and for all.
Также хотел бы попросить тебя вернуться в легкий вес, чтобы ты уничтожил Топурию, и он наконец-то заткнулся и не говорил ничего о бойцах из Дагестана. Islam Makhachev чемпион!
Как ты хочешь сделать?
Yet while Arman sets his sights forward, another storm brews in the background. Charles Oliveira, the man who once held the crown, now faces rumors that his reign inside the cage may be nearing its end. At 35, whispers of retirement have begun to spread like wildfire, and critics are eager to close his book. But Oliveira refuses to let others write his story. With fire in his eyes and certainty in his voice, he pushes back against the narrative, dismissing talk of retirement as nothing more than noise. For Oliveira, age is not a barrier, it is just a number. Passion, heart, and drive are what keep a fighter alive, and by those measures, he insists he has plenty left. His career has been a roller coaster, marked by brutal losses, incredible comebacks, and unforgettable victories. But in his mind, the journey is far from complete. He does not just want to fight, he wants to fight the best. He wants to cement his legacy, to reclaim what he once held, to remind the world why he was feared and respected as a champion. And so, while critics count him out, Oliveira sends a message to fans and fighters alike. Stop writing him off, because he is not done, not by a long shot.
Islam, what is your weight now? How much did your weight change, and how did your physical condition, your physical preparation change? You know, up until last camp, I think my weight was about 83, 84. But now with the right regimen, with the right diet, my weight is now 86.5. Yesterday was 86.5. I think right now I'm where I need to be. I'm at the right weight. I'm at the place where I feel comfortable with working out, sparring, and working with the guys that usually fight at 77. To continue to gain the weight from now on is not necessarily the goal of mine. I mean, it might go up like 1 or 2 kgs in training still, but we've already done plenty of work during this camp with heavyweights to make sure to gain the proper weight that we need.
The night had barely ended when whispers began to ripple through the MMA world, whispers that grew louder with every passing hour. At UFC 319, amid the blinding lights and deafening roars of the crowd, a new narrative was born. It wasn't just about who had their hand raised, it was about who was left standing in the shadows, waiting, demanding, and hungering for the shot that should already be theirs. And at the heart of it all, standing with fire in his chest and steel in his voice, was Arman Tsarukyan. This is not a story of luck. This is not a story of hype. This is the story of a fighter forged in the harshest fires of combat, a man who clawed his way to the #1 contender spot with blood, sweat, and relentless perseverance. Arman's journey to the pinnacle has not been smooth. It has been a battlefield of broken dreams, stolen opportunities, and victories carved out of impossibility. When injury robbed him of a promised title shot, many thought it would break him, that the cruel hand of fate would push him down into silence. But instead, he rose louder, stronger, and more determined than ever. For Arman, every setback is not the end of the road, it is fuel. And now, standing at the very edge of history, he is ready to claim what he believes is already his, the undisputed shot at UFC gold. But destiny, in the UFC, is never simple. For as Arman sharpened his focus and prepared for his moment, another figure loomed over the division, Ilia Topuria. The Georgian champion, a fighter of immense skill and undeniable talent, holds the belt that Arman has dreamt of for years. On paper, it is the matchup that fans salivate over, the unstoppable challenger versus the untested champion. Yet, beneath the surface, doubt has begun to spread like a storm cloud. Whispers accuse Topuria of hesitation, of avoiding the collision course that seems inevitable. Fans question, is the champion truly ready to defend against the hungriest contender in the division? Or does he fear what Arman brings into the cage? These questions linger like smoke after a fire, haunting every discussion, every debate, every headline. Into this chaos steps Charles Oliveira, the veteran, the former king, the man whose journey through the lightweight division reads like an epic saga. He has been broken and rebuilt, counted out and resurrected, doubted and crowned. When Oliveira speaks, the world listens. And in this moment, his voice cuts through the noise like a blade. To him, there is no debate, no second guessing. Arman Tsarukyan is the rightful contender. Oliveira knows what it means to climb, to be denied, to be overlooked, and to fight for recognition. His declaration is not just an opinion, it is a demand for justice. Give Arman the title shot, his message roars, echoing in interviews and headlines, resonating with fans across the globe. For him, overlooking Tsarukyan now would not just be an insult, it would be an outrage. But Oliveira's words strike deeper because of the shadows that follow him. At 35, with a career filled with wars, scars, and endless battles, whispers of retirement swirl around him like vultures circling their prey. Critics say his time has passed, that the fire has dimmed, that the cage has taken more from him than it has given. Yet Oliveira refuses to surrender to that narrative. He pushes back with the stubborn fire of a warrior, dismissing retirement as nothing more than noise, insisting that his journey is not over. He wants one more run, one more chance to etch his name into eternity, one more war that defines legacy. And in his eyes, Arman Tsarukyan is the storm that must come next. For the fans, the picture is painted clearly. The division is a powder keg, and all it needs is a spark. Arman Tsarukyan versus Ilia Topuria is not just a fight. It is destiny, it is inevitability, it is the clash that could redefine the lightweight throne. To deny it would be to rob the fans, to rob the sport, to rob history itself. But in the UFC, where politics dance with profit, where timing often overshadows merit, nothing is ever certain. And so, the chants grow louder, the demands grow fiercer, and the tension tightens around the division like a noose. The days pass after UFC 319, every interview, every post, every rumor adds weight to the storm. Arman sharpens his words and his will, sending his challenge across the world. Topuria remains silent, his camp guarded, his intentions hidden. Oliveira raises his voice higher, insisting the UFC listen, insisting the fans be heard. And through it all, the question remains, who will the UFC choose? Will it be the challenger who has bled for his chance, the champion who must prove himself, or the veteran who refuses to fade away? The stakes are monumental, the tension unbearable, the outcome uncertain. But one thing is clear, when the storm finally breaks, the lightweight division will never be the same again. The story of Arman Tsarukyan is not one that can be told in whispers. It demands to be shouted, to be etched in fire across the very canvas of the octagon. His rise is not just a tale of victories. It is a chronicle of survival, a relentless march through opponents who underestimated him, through setbacks that should have buried him, and through doubts that would have broken lesser men. Arman is not built like the rest. His foundation was laid in the dirt and sweat of countless training sessions, in nights spent away from comfort, in the loneliness of sacrifice that only fighters truly understand. When he steps into the cage, he carries more than just gloves and game plans. He carries the weight of every sacrifice, every scar, every hour spent pushing his body past the limits of exhaustion. He carries destiny. Yet destiny in the UFC is a treacherous road, paved not just with skill but with politics, timing, and the whispers of promoters who decide who gets the golden ticket. And here lies the burning question. Why has Arman not been given his rightful shot? He has proven himself time and again, dismantling opponents, showcasing skill, grit, and heart. He has stood toe-to-toe with giants and left them broken, yet still, the belt has eluded him. For the fans, this is not confusion, it is injustice. The UFC thrives on stories, but sometimes the best stories are left waiting in the shadows, denied their climax. Arman's story is one such saga, paused mid-chapter, the resolution withheld, and contrast. Ilia Topuria stands as the new face of glory. Young, confident, undefeated, his rise has been meteoric. He holds the belt now, the gleaming prize that symbolizes supremacy. But belts are not just won, they must be defended, tested, validated in the fires of combat. To many, Ilia is untested, a king who has not yet faced the storms of true adversity. His reign has the shine of gold but not the weight of iron. And that is why Arman's challenge is not just about opportunity, it is about truth. Can Topuria truly be called a champion if he avoids the storm that approaches him? Can he cement his legacy if he sidesteps the man the world knows is the rightful contender? Charles Oliveira's voice adds fuel to this fire, amplifying it into a roar that cannot be ignored. Oliveira, the veteran who has seen it all, knows when a fighter has earned his place. He does not speak lightly. His endorsement of Arman is not born out of convenience. It is born out of respect, of recognition, of an understanding that true warriors must be rewarded for their wars. Oliveira's declaration is both a blessing and a warning. Deny Arman now, and you deny the essence of competition itself. For a man like Oliveira, who has bled and suffered for every accolade, the idea of Tsarukyan being overlooked is nothing short of blasphemy. But beneath Oliveira's call lies his own unspoken battle. Retirement. It lingers over him like a shadow, creeping closer with every fight, every camp, every grueling war. He hears it in the whispers of critics, in the analysis of pundits, in the subtle questions from journalists who wonder if he still has the fire. Yet, Oliveira pushes back. He insists he has more to give, more wars to fight, more legacy to carve into stone. And perhaps, in Tsarukyan, he sees a reflection of himself, a man climbing, demanding recognition, fighting not just opponents but the very system that tries to deny him. Oliveira's call for Arman is not just for the contender. It is for the spirit of fighting itself. For the fans, this is drama at its purest, conflict at its most raw. On one side stands the young champion with everything to lose. On the other, the hungry contender with nothing to fear. And looming just behind, the veteran who refuses to fade into silence. This is not just a division, it is a battlefield of narratives, a war of destinies colliding. The fans chant Arman's name not just because of his skills, but because he represents something primal: justice. He represents the idea that hard work, sacrifice, and victory must be rewarded, that the cage should not be ruled by favoritism or timing but by truth. As the weeks pass, tension thickens like smoke before a firestorm. The UFC cannot ignore it forever. Promoters know the fight sells itself: youth versus hunger, confidence versus grit, talent versus inevitability. The posters write themselves, the hype builds effortlessly, the world demands it. But still, silence lingers. Topuria remains quiet, Oliveira continues his crusade, and Arman sharpens his blade in the shadows. It is the kind of tension that keeps fans awake at night, refreshing news feeds, waiting for the announcement that will change everything. And deep down, everyone knows the truth. When the cage door closes, all the politics, all the whispers, all the hesitation will vanish. What will remain is fire meeting fire, will clashing with will, and the undeniable truth written in fists, blood, and heart. Arman Tsarukyan is not asking anymore. He is demanding. And if destiny is delayed again, he will not fade. He will only grow louder, fiercer, more unstoppable. Because some fighters are not built to wait. They are built to conquer. The night is coming, that inevitable night when Arman Tsarukyan's patience will collide with the UFC's politics, and the octagon will finally become the stage for truth. Every fan, every analyst, every fighter who knows the grind feels it in their bones. The longer you deny a man his destiny, the more dangerous he becomes. Arman has waited, trained, and sharpened himself in silence, and silence is always the most terrifying before the storm. He is no longer simply a contender. He has transformed into a reckoning. Arman's journey is not built on hype videos and promotional campaigns. It is built on scars. From his earliest fights, he embraced the role of the underdog, the man few believed in, yet the one who walked out with victory etched on his fists. He has gone the distance with killers, dismantled names many thought untouchable, and each time, he has grown stronger. For him, there is no plan B, no other dream. The octagon is his battlefield, his altar, and his destiny. To deny him now is to spit in the face of merit itself. Meanwhile, Ilia Topuria carries himself like a king whose crown has yet to be tested in war. His confidence is unshakable, his demeanor unbothered, and his victories have been dazzling. But every reign must endure a crucible, a moment that defines whether the champion is truly made of steel or only plated in gold. For Topuria, that crucible is Arman Tsarukyan. It is not a fight he can avoid forever, no matter how much silence surrounds the matchmaking. Because legacies are not written in easy defenses. They are forged in wars that strip away the comfort of dominance and leave only the essence of survival. Arman promises nothing less than that kind of war. The UFC thrives on spectacle, and nothing is more spectacular than inevitability. You can feel it in the chants of the crowd, in the debates that rage online, in the words of veterans like Charles Oliveira. When Oliveira demands that Arman be given his rightful shot, it is more than just a statement, it is the voice of experience. This is a man who has been through the grinder, who has faced legends, who has worn the belt, and who knows what it takes to deserve one. If Oliveira, the Du Bronx himself, says Tsarukyan has earned his chance, then what greater validation is needed? His words echo like prophecy: Arman must fight Ilia. But Oliveira's involvement also deepens the intrigue. For while he stands in Arman's corner metaphorically, he also lurks as a possible opponent, a gatekeeper of destiny who refuses to fade away. Retirement whispers in his ear, but Oliveira fights it back with every ounce of his spirit. He does not want to be remembered as a legend who overstayed. He wants to be remembered as the man who went out in fire, still swinging, still demanding wars. And perhaps in this fiery battleground of Topuria and Tsarukyan, Oliveira seeks his own redemption, his own last stand. The beauty of this narrative is that it is not one story but three: the young champion clinging to his throne, the relentless contender demanding justice, and the veteran refusing to step aside. For the fans, this convergence is electric. They do not want carefully curated matchups or safe defenses. They crave chaos, danger, unpredictability, the kind of fight where the result cannot be scripted. Tsarukyan versus Topuria is that chaos incarnate. One man fighting to prove he belongs, the other fighting to prove he deserves to stay. In those moments, belts stop being about gold and leather, they become symbols of survival. And make no mistake, when Arman fights, it is never just about skill. It is about will. He drags opponents into deep waters, breaks them not just with strikes but with pressure, with suffocating intensity that tests the soul more than the body. Topuria may be undefeated, but has he faced a storm that never ends? Has he faced a man who does not know how to quit, who thrives in exhaustion, who welcomes pain as fuel? Aman is that storm. He does not walk into the octagon to perform. He walks in to conquer. Still, the politics of the UFC remain an unpredictable monster. Fights are made not just with logic, but with dollars, narratives, and timing. And therein lies the agony. Everyone knows Tsarukyan deserves his shot, yet the silence of matchmaking lingers. Fans rage, analysts speculate, fighters call it unfair. But behind that frustration lies an undeniable truth. Inevitability cannot be delayed forever. A storm denied only grows larger, and when it finally arrives, it consumes everything in its path. Oh, the stage is set. Perhaps not today, perhaps not tomorrow, but soon. When the cage door locks and Arman Tsarukyan finally stands across from Ilia Topuria, it will not just be another fight. It will be a moment years in the making, a collision of hunger and pride, of silence and noise, of justice and resistance. And when the fists fly, when the sweat and blood mark the canvas, only one truth will remain. Champions are not crowned by politics, they are forged by fire.